Welcome back, guys. Misplay Mayhem with another deck profile from Mr. Jimmy. I've always called him Bastion Masawa.
Yeah, the man of 1,000 mistakes.
That's crazy. Anyway, Jimmy, what you got for us this time?
And this one's a Odin kind of revamped Phantasmal deck. Phantasmal kind of got a bit of a bump thanks to the Primac cards. I'm not crazy enough, especially on a cheap deck like this, to spend for Lordy Loads. So,
Are the reprints still like over $10?
hell yeah, they're 30 something.
The reprints?
That's why I'm like, F that. Once they try and do, hopefully they get reprinted again in these newest things that are coming out, in which case, then I'll put them in this deck.
What the hell?
But for right now, you ain't got a mix, just knowing that you can always add Lordy Loads in here to then boost up the power and consistency of this deck with Ether Barrel as well. But for this right now, it is just doing bare bones Phantasmal stuff, which is still pretty good, fun control deck using tokens and normal monsters.
Move it back a little bit. Okay. Yeah, because this was about to fall off. Okay.
So, of course, the first guy you're going to see, your main beater, is Phantasm Spiral Dragon. Essentially, he could be any big normal monster, but, part of the archetype, so why not? Then, as you'll see why later, I do sprinkle in also these normal worms. Mystery Shell Dragon, just two of them. Nice level 4s, 2,000 beaters. Hit somebody 4 times with this guy. It's a game.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm looking up like the reprint price. Yeah, it is starting at like $26.
So it's just bull. And then you got your Megalo Mashers, another 2,000 attacker. No, again, a nice generic normal monster. You'll see why later, why you need a bunch of these in the Spiral deck.
Why does that look like something you would see in Godzilla Final Wars?
I mean, it's called Megalo Masher X. Right, and then finally, the only effect monster in this deck, Planet Pathfinder. It is a monster that searches your field spell. The number one thing in this deck is you need that field spell to work. Without it, this deck pretty much dies pretty fast. So, playing 3 of those to search. The name of the game for this, which is the field spell, which is at 3. Pacifist, the Phantasm City. This sucker is what helps you do everything. It allows you to search for a Phantasm spell trap. It also brings out a token every time your opponent does something. You don't have a token on your side of the field. It just pretty much is the engine of this deck. And to make sure you can get it, you use, of course, Pathfinder, but then also sprinkle in, since we can't have more than one terraforming, you got terraforming and then Metaverse.
I haven't seen Metaverse used in a minute.
It's something that needs to be used, so I got it in here. So at least you have, around 5, 6, 7, 8 copies of Pacifist, essentially, in your deck. Then what's next are the spells. Still harking on that, which are 2 of the Spasm or Spiral Phantasm cards. You got Phantasm Spiral Crash and Grip. You can kind of get away with not really playing these. So the ones that people love are the trap cards, but with this, it gives you that little extra bump of aggression where once it kills a monster, it then allows you to then special out the Spiral Dragon, which then has this card re-equip itself to that. It gives itself a bump and attack. And then the other one, I believe, once it does damage, it allows you then to do the same thing. So this kind of helps you bring out those dragons faster, which are not dragons but worms, and beat your opponent's face in. Now the other ones that they get, we're not going to stick with just going spells and the traps. This is 3 of the spiral battles. This is the thing that helps control in this deck. It's what pops a card on your opponent's side of the field. And when you have, I can't read it upside down, but when you have a face up Yumi, which pacifist does count as Yumi, you can then activate the card in your hand. So this guy just controls your field at any point in time, which means if you got that field spell, they never know when you might be dropping this on them, which gives that little bit of extra terror against your opponent. And then you got what essentially is their effect veiler, which is spell Phantasm, Spiral, Power. This one allows you to essentially target, drop your opponent's monster by 1,000 attack and defense, and negate the effect as long as you got Yumi, which again, Pacifist is the Yumi. So again, these guys, you got one that pops a card, one that stops a monster effect, and then the 2 spells, which are weak in comparison, which allow you to then bring out the dragon itself and beat in face. Now back to the spells. You got Fish Sonar. I personally like it because it adds 1 level 7 or lower water monster from your deck to your hand that either mentions Yumi or as a water normal monster. Then, because of Yumi's on the field, you allow you to special summon out a water monster that is a normal monster. So with this 1 card in pacifist on your turn, you literally get Megalomasher into your hand and then special out the Spiral Dragon to your field, giving you an additional monster, activating pacifist's effect to search a card through its effect, and having extra monster. It becomes like a kind of 1-2 punch early on to get advantage in the game.
And it took us a minute to find all 3 of those, didn't it?
Yeah, because nobody opened up this trash set. That was the Mako Tsunami Legendary Duelist set. Nobody opened that up here around Cali. Next, you got Unexpected Die. Again, since this deck is very light on monsters, and all of them are pretty much normals, Unexpected Die allows you to get that extra body on the field, as well as activating Pacifist's effect to allow you to search for one of those controlled traps. Or if you're going second, the spell cards to allow you to get more aggression on the board. And with this, you can bring out either Megalomasher or the Worm. Again, you still haven't seen why I put the Worm in, but it'll be eventually there. You'll see why. Like I said before, the Primites would do really well in this deck. I mean, Primites effects all usually have to do something with having a normal monster on board. With this deck being nothing but normal monsters, it's pretty much just a dead, giveaway to get this card. These are original Ultras, and I would have used Lord Low, but again, I'm not paying that price for a fun deck.
Don't worry, Jimmy, I'll pull it for us.
Yeah. Instead, I have Piercing the Light. Now, this is another fun tactic because what it does is, if your normal special summon a monster that is a non-token normal monster, allows you to draw a card. And with a deck like this, where you're special summoning out normal monsters, getting that extra draw once per turn helps you gain. And also, added bonus is if you have a level 5 or higher normal monster when it attacks your opponent, it pretty much becomes like an honest and allows to beat over them consistently. So it becomes really hard once this thing's in the field to ever lose a true battle if you have the Phantasm Dragon on board against an opponent. And then now, the rest of the hate, because now this is part of the control part of the deck. 1 skill drain. Again, you got normal monsters, so all your effects are pretty much spells and traps, which with this screws everybody else over. Now, this is why you have the worms. The token that you generate is a worm. Spiral itself is a worm. That's why you have also the normal level number 4 monster that is a worm. This helps you also constantly terrorize your opponent, because if you got this card face down, you pop a worm monster, ideally the token, and destroy 2 of their cards. So you're getting rid of 1 free token monster that automatically will generate on your side of the field as long as passive is still on the board. and popping 2 of their cards. So essentially becomes a 1 for 2. Now you can play it at 2 or 3, just depending on how you want to play your board. Then of course, because you constantly generate that token as long as the field spell's alive, Torrential Tribute. The name of the game is to mitigate your opponent's monsters, and since you always have pressure, why not wipe yours if you need to? You always just get it back.
Under pressure.
And finally, Solemn Judgment. Primarily, this is just to protect the pacifists, because the last thing you want them to do is destroy your field spell. Now, you can stop them by using. They have their lightning storm, or they try to bring out a synchro or rank or link, anything that tries to get rid of that field spell. Because in the long game, this deck is pretty much built to outlast your opponent through resources. So if you can keep that field spell alive, the better you are. Now, this deck does not have an extra deck, but because you are playing with tokens, I just threw these guys in there because they were just free tokens to use. So whichever fancy, you can bring whatever token you want. I just like these because, hell, they're free, they're available, and they look cool. Lastly, just a couple of cards I had in the side deck. The other Piercing Light for the third, the other Phantasm Dragon, if you want to have 3, kind of gets a little bit cloggy. That's why I only put it at 2. So you have that ability to have that extra 1 body in case you did get it in your hand. And if you didn't, that's the extra 1 of these that hits the board once you start using that equip card. And if you think you're going against opponents that need a little bit more effect cancellation, imperms, and the third blackout. Now this, at a point, was a pretty decent card to use. I'm not really into it right now, but depending upon what's going on with this canine stuff, it might be going back as a turn 1 card just to kind of control what the hell they're doing. And then the extra equip cards, just because I'm still trying to figure out if they're even worth the play. I know one of them kind of isn't, but once I actually get a more solid look on the actual meta, then I can decide which ones to strip out of here. And without that, that is it for this one.
Thank you, Jimmy. Alright guys, that was it for this one, and don't forget to misplay.